What if the most terrifying force of nature got even worse? Imagine a tornado, but instead of wind and rain, it's made entirely of fire. A spinning tower of flames reaching hundreds of feet into the sky, with winds strong enough to rip trees from the ground and temperatures hot enough to melt metal. This isn't Hollywood. This is a real fire tornado, and it's becoming more common. Fire tornadoes, also known as firenadoes or fire whirls, are one of nature's rarest and most destructive phenomena. They combine the raw power of a wildfire with the violent rotation of a tornado. When these two forces meet, the result is nothing short of apocalyptic. So how does something this terrifying actually form? It all starts with an extremely intense wildfire. When a fire burns hot enough, it creates a massive column of superheated air that rises rapidly upward. This is called a strong updraft. If the surrounding winds are just right, especially when wind directions collide or get channeled by terrain like canyons or mountains, they can start to spin that rising column of hot air. Once the rotation begins, the fire gets sucked into the vortex. The flames themselves begin to rotate, feeding the spin and making the column even stronger. What you end up with is a towering fire tornado that can stretch from 300 feet to over 1,000 feet tall, with wind speeds reaching 100 to 300 miles per hour in the most extreme cases. Temperatures inside these vortices can exceed 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, hot enough to melt glass and warp steel. One of the most documented and powerful fire tornadoes in history happened during the Carr Fire in Northern California in July 2018. A massive wildfire was burning near Redding when conditions aligned perfectly. The fire created an enormous pyrocumulonimbus cloud, basically a fire-generated thunderstorm. The extreme heat and strong inflow winds caused a powerful fire tornado to form. This Firenado was so intense that it was officially rated as an EF3 tornado, with winds estimated between 136 and 165 miles per hour. It tore roofs off houses, tossed cars like toys, and even ripped large trees out of the ground. It stayed on the ground for over 30 minutes and caused incredible destruction. Firefighters described it as one of the most frightening things they had ever seen. Unlike regular tornadoes, fire tornadoes don't just destroy with wind, they actively spread the fire. They can hurl burning debris and embers for miles, starting new fires far away from the main blaze. They also create their own weather. The intense heat can generate lightning, strong downdrafts, and erratic wind shifts that make firefighting extremely dangerous and unpredictable. Scientists are increasingly concerned that fire tornadoes may become more frequent as climate change fuels larger, hotter, and more intense wildfires. Drier conditions, longer fire seasons, and bigger burn areas are creating the perfect ingredients for these monsters to form more often. What was once considered extremely rare is now being documented several times per decade in places like California, Australia, and parts of Europe. Fire tornadoes are a brutal reminder of how powerful and unpredictable nature can be. When fire and wind team up in just the right way, they create something that looks like it belongs in a disaster movie. Except it's real. As our planet continues to warm and wildfires grow more severe, we may see more of these terrifying Firenadoes in the years ahead.